The sun was beginning to set on the dusty plains, casting a warm golden light over everything it touched. The day's heat still clung to the air, making the long ride feel even more tiring than it should have been. Sam, a lone cowboy, was used to being by himself out here in the Wild West. He had made a life of solitude, away from towns, away from the noise and bustle of society. For years, his only companions had been his horse in the open sky, and he preferred it that way. He never sought trouble, but trouble had a way of finding him no matter how far he ran. As he rode along the trail, Sam's sharp eyes caught sight of something unusual up ahead. A woman was sitting by the side of the path, her back hunched as if she were waiting for something. Or someone. Sam's instincts kicked in and he slowed his horse. Something didn't feel right. It wasn't common to see anyone on this particular stretch of trail, especially not someone alone, especially not a woman. His hand moved instinctively to the handle of his rifle, but he didn't draw it, not yet. The woman didn't appear threatening, but that didn't mean much in the West. There were too many people who'd pretend to be something they weren't. He squinted at her from a distance. She was young, maybe in her 20s, with long, tangled hair and clothes that looked worn beyond repair. Her dress was torn at the hem and dirt streaked across her pale skin. She wasn't holding herself like someone who had simply gotten lost or needed help. No, her posture, curled in on itself, made her look defeated. There was a sadness in her slumped shoulders that Sam couldn't ignore. His horse's hooves clopped against the ground as he approached. The woman didn't move. He pulled the reins gently, bringing the horse to a slow stop just a few feet away from her. Sam looked down at her, wondering if she even saw him yet. "Ma'am?" he asked in a low, cautious voice. "You all right?" The woman's head snapped up at the sound of his voice. Her eyes were wide with fear, and she quickly turned her head away as though she didn't want him to see her face. But it was too late. Sam saw the pain in her eyes and the raw desperation. "Please." Her voice was hoarse, barely a whisper. Just kill me quickly." Sam's heart skipped a beat. The word struck him hard. He had seen people suffering, had been in battles himself, but never had someone begged for death so simply, so helplessly. He blinked in confusion, unsure if he had heard her correctly. His fingers tightened on the reins. What did you say?" he asked, leaning forward slightly, trying to understand. The woman turned her face toward him, just enough for him to see the tear stains on her cheeks. "Please," she whispered again, her voice trembling. "Kill me. I don't want to live like this anymore." Sam was frozen. His eyes searched her face, trying to find some clue as to why anyone would want such a thing. It didn't make sense. He wasn't a doctor, but he knew that kind of pain. She looked like someone who had been through things no one should ever go through, things Sam couldn't imagine. "Who's after you?" he asked gently, hoping that perhaps there was something he could do. His heart was heavy with the need to help her, but he knew he needed to understand first. The woman flinched when he spoke again, as if his voice was a shock. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand and then looked up at him, her eyes filled with a strange mix of anger and sorrow. They're going to find me. I can't outrun them anymore," she said, barely above a whisper. Her words were broken, as though the very act of speaking was too much for her. "Who are they?" Sam pressed. "You don't have to be afraid. I can help." She shook her head, her eyes glassy with tears that refused to stop. "It's no use," she said, barely audible. "They'll come for me. And when they do, it's over." Sam didn't know what she was talking about, but something told him that whatever it was bad, worse than he could imagine. His gut twisted with the feeling that he had to do something. This woman didn't deserve whatever fate she believed was waiting for her. He dismounted from his horse, his boots hitting the ground with a soft thud. Without thinking, he reached out and gently helped her to her feet, his calloused hands supporting her weight. Her body trembled beneath his touch, and she didn't protest as he guided her to the back of his horse, his strong arm holding her steady. "You're safe now," he said quietly, though he wasn't sure if it was true. "I won't let anyone hurt you." The woman's body was so thin, so fragile beneath the rough fabric of her dress. She looked as though she hadn't eaten in days, maybe even longer. Her skin was pale, and the quiet sobs she was holding back seemed to take everything out of her. "I'm not going anywhere with you," she whispered suddenly, her voice full of defiance, even though she had no strength left to back up her words. "I don't want your help." No one's help. Sam felt a pang in his chest. He couldn't understand why she was so determined to shut him out, but he wasn't going to force her. He wouldn't let her go back to whatever it was she was running from, though. That much he knew. "I'm not asking for anything in return," Sam said gently, his voice soft but firm. "Just let me help." She met his eyes for the first time since their encounter, her expression a mixture of disbelief and hopelessness. "You don't understand," she said, barely able to speak the words. They've taken everything from me. My family, my dignity, my hope. And now I'm nothing but their property. A thing for them to do with what they please." Sam felt a chill run down his spine. She was speaking about something that wasn't just physical. It was as if the very core of her being had been destroyed. She wasn't just running from people. She was running from a past that had marked her, left a scar that no one could see but that she felt with every breath. As he listened, Sam knew he couldn't turn his back on her, not now. He wasn't a hero. He was just a cowboy trying to live his life, but something about this woman stirred something in him. Maybe it was because deep down, he understood what it felt like to be broken, to be lost, and to not want to face the world anymore. "You don't have to be alone," Sam said quietly, his words simple but full of conviction. "I won't let them hurt you." The woman didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked down at the ground, avoiding his gaze. Sam, feeling her resistance but knowing it was born of fear, reached out again. "We'll get you somewhere safe. They won't find you. Not if I can help it." And so, with those words, Sam made a promise to himself and to her, though he wasn't sure how he was going to keep it. The only thing he knew for certain was that he couldn't leave her to face whatever was coming for her. Not like this. Not alone. She was reluctant at first, but with his help they began to move. Slowly, cautiously, with the weight of her pain hanging between them, they set off into the fading light of the day with Sam's horse leading the way, and the long road ahead full of uncertainty. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows over the land, Sam couldn't help but wonder what kind of past she was running from. But for now, that didn't matter. What mattered was keeping her safe, and he was going to do whatever it took to make sure that she had a chance at a life beyond the darkness she had known. The journey ahead was uncertain, but Sam knew one thing for sure. He wasn't going to leave her behind. They had ridden together for hours, the wind picking up as dusk settled over the land. The sky had turned a deep shade of purple, and the stars began to twinkle above them, casting their cold light on the vast empty plains. Sam could feel the woman's trembling body against his, her hands gripping his coat tightly as they rode, her breath coming in shallow gasps. Every so often, she would glance up at him as if to make sure he wasn't going to abandon her. But Sam was steadfast. He had made a promise, and he intended to keep it. They reached a small, secluded cabin on the edge of a forest just as night fell. Sam had built it years ago, a quiet place where he could escape when the world felt too loud. It wasn't much, just a few rooms, a fireplace, and a cot in the corner. But to Sam, it was home. It was the one place where he felt peace. He dismounted and helped the woman down from the horse. She was weak, and though she tried to stand on her own, Sam could see the effort it took. She had been through so much. He led her inside and sat her by the fire, where he quickly set to work preparing something warm for her. He offered her some water first, and she drank greedily as if she had not had a sip in days. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You don't have to do this for me. I've already told you I'm not worth saving." Sam didn't respond right away. He was focused on making sure she was comfortable, trying to ignore the nagging thoughts that kept racing through his mind. He wanted to know more about her, what had happened, who had hurt her, why she was so desperate to end her own life. But he could see that she wasn't ready to speak yet, so he respected her silence. After a while, he finished making a simple stew, and they sat down together by the fire. Sam tried to keep things light, telling her stories of his days on the trail, of the funny encounters he'd had with travelers, and the times he'd almost been caught in a bad storm. His voice was warm, trying to offer her some comfort, but he could see that her mind was elsewhere. She didn't eat much, just picking at the food before pushing it away. Sam didn't press her, but he couldn't help but notice how thin she was. She was malnourished, and it was clear she had been through much more than just physical hunger. Her spirit seemed broken, and he wondered if there was anything he could do to fix that. "I've been running for so long," she said suddenly, her voice quieter now, her eyes fixed on the flames. "I don't even remember what it's like to feel safe. They're always hunting me, always looking for me, and I'm just so tired." Sam didn't know what to say. He had heard of outlaws in the West, but he never thought he would meet someone who was fleeing from something so much darker than the usual lawless men. The pain in her words was raw, and he knew she wasn't just talking about the men chasing her. There was something deeper in her voice, something that made him realize she had suffered more than he could understand. "What happened to you?" Sam asked gently, sitting across from her, giving her the space to speak if she wanted to. The woman looked up at him, her eyes filled with unshed tears. She took a shaky breath as if preparing herself for something difficult. "I wasn't always like this," she began, her voice barely a whisper. "I had a family once. We were wealthy, we had everything we needed. But then, everything changed." Sam listened intently, his heart heavy with the weight of her words. "One day men came to our land. I didn't know who they were at first. They said they were buyers, but they weren't. They were criminals, traders of people, not things. My family, they sold me." Her voice cracked and she took a moment to compose herself. "I wasn't the only one. There were others. But they took me first." Sam felt his stomach twist in anger at the thought of what she was describing. He knew the West was a harsh place, but he hadn't realized how deep the cruelty could go. He wanted to reach out to her to offer some comfort, but he knew this wasn't something words could fix. "They branded me," she continued, her voice breaking as she spoke, "marked me like cattle. They thought I was just another thing to be traded. They didn't care who I was, what I meant. I was just property." She paused, tears sliding down her cheeks. "I'm nothing to them, Sam. I never was." Sam's heart ached for her. He didn't know how to help, but he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't going to let her believe that she was worthless. He had seen enough of the world to know that people, good people, were worth far more than what the world sometimes allowed them to believe. "They're going to find me, Sam," she whispered, her eyes distant. "And when they do, it'll be over. I can't outrun them anymore. They'll take me back, make me live in that nightmare again." Sam clenched his fists. He couldn't imagine what she had been through, but he could see that she was still holding on to some flicker of hope. She hadn't given up completely, not yet. And he wouldn't let her. "You don't have to run anymore," he said firmly, his voice low. "They won't find you. Not while I'm here." She shook her head. "You don't know what you're saying. They won't stop. They never do. And neither will I." Sam's jaw tightened. "Then I'll make sure they never get close enough to hurt you again," he vowed. "You're not alone. I'm not leaving you." The woman's eyes filled with doubt, but something in his voice seemed to reach her. She didn't respond immediately, but she met his gaze for the first time, her expression softening just slightly. She was still scared, still unsure, but Sam could see that a tiny seed of trust had been planted. For the rest of the night they sat in silence, the fire crackling softly between them. The only sound was the wind outside whispering through the trees. Sam kept watch over her, determined to protect her from whatever demons haunted her past. He knew it wouldn't be easy, and that the road ahead would be filled with dangers he couldn't even imagine. But in that moment he made a promise to himself and to her that he would keep her safe no matter what. The next morning, Sam prepared to leave the cabin. He had a plan. He wasn't sure how he was going to do it, but he knew he had to get her far away from whoever was chasing her. He wasn't going to let her become a victim again. She deserved better, deserved a chance to rebuild her life. As they packed their things and prepared to leave, Sam glanced at her. She looked different today, not much, but a little. She seemed less fearful, a bit more willing to trust. Sam knew the road ahead was going to be hard, but they would face it together. And as they left the cabin behind and rode off into the unknown, Sam felt a sense of purpose he hadn't had in years. He wasn't just a cowboy anymore. He was a protector, and he was going to fight for the woman who had been broken by the world, but who was still trying to find a way to heal. Together, they would face whatever came next.